We just talked about pleasing and what's the difference between pleasing and basically doing that what is natural to you, which is to be kind and caring. Now, the difference is that when you do please others, you actually want something in return. There's something that you hope to get from whatever you're doing for them. And if you only operate from kindness and caring, just because this is who you are, there is no expectation on what other people are doing. You just are doing this because you know it's the right thing. Now, here's a great example of a person that I feel is kind and caring and doesn't have that pleaser bone inside of him. And it's a fictional person. And it's right now my favorite show, which is Ted Lasso on Apple TV. I have to say it's really great. So if you didn't have a chance to watch it, see it, because it is about really being caring and kind and not taking stuff personally and just continue doing the things that seem to be right. Now, the reason why we do please, just like in my case, starts usually very early. It's one of those survival patterns. It's one of those things we figure out that gets us what we want. The pleasing can start with parents being super busy. Maybe there are more kids to take care of, and you just figure out, well, if I'm going to do always the right thing and help mom cleaning the kitchen up or empty the dishwasher, I get a little smile, or maybe even a hug. Or maybe you figured out after your friends in school all of a sudden stopped talking to you for no reason whatsoever. You couldn't figure it out, that in the future you want to keep friends by pleasing them, by being the one who's always available, who doesn't make any problems. There are countless scenarios that you can find that brings up inside of you the idea of, in order to not get rejected, in order to have some kind of a standing in the tribe, in the family, in order to have a sense of belonging and worthiness, I need to please others. It's pure survival. Now, there are other survival patterns. You could have chosen to become completely rebellious and just show everyone the middle finger and feel like, I just doing my own thing, which is a form of also survival, because you feel like this way I'm establishing my autonomy. Or you could become the invisible who just disappears, goes to her room and reads a book and doesn't want to interact with anyone. You chose to be a pleaser because you have this kind and caring nature inside of you. So that's your gift, just like the gift of your sensitivity. The problem is just that with this kind and caring nature, you chose to go into the survival pattern, and by doing this and by making other people more important than yourself, you have stunted your own growth. You have stunted your own self-exploration. And that is something, well, it's not a problem because you can always make up for it, but it's something that you just know, well, I actually became really, even as an adult, so dependent on this pleasing because I have never really learned to give myself that what I wanted from others, whether it's approval, whether it's appreciation, whether it's just a sense that you matter. All of those things, it's like, if someone always gets fed and cooked for, and you never really had to buy groceries or really learn to make a meal, well, there is a very strong dependency on that. And if you don't have people cooking for you, well, you're starving. And pleasers are starving for love and attention and some sense of being, not completely without worthiness. And that is something that comes from way back. And then later on, it just becomes the pattern that almost is, autopilot for all pleasers, because it just feels more natural to do that and get your little fill of appreciation this way than really learning to do it yourself. Now, the problem is that, this dependency of this approval, or at least recognition, also makes you naturally have all that focus, your whole inner radar system is so much placed on others that you literally don't really know what you want, who you are, what you desire, and you are very, very susceptible to other people's energy and other people's opinion and judgment about you. So when you are in that cycle, you really feel very quickly hurt, or just uncomfortable, or rejected. And even though maybe this has nothing to do with you, because you are so sensitive to other people's feelings and what's going on with them, you do absorb it and you do take it personal. So it's a good thing to realize, well, do I still have to live in that survival mode? Maybe it was important when I was little. Maybe, just in my case, I felt like, well, I cannot really be loved. I cannot really have a girlfriend unless I am really giving and baking and all those things. But in the end, don't we know better in the meantime? Don't we have more indications that we can actually be independent and take care of ourselves than still go through these pleasing patterns? Now, there's one very, slippery thing about being pleasing, besides that, it is something that you're feeding yourself with other people's appreciation. And besides that, you can also hide behind being a pleaser, where you just don't really have to show what's inside of you because you don't like what's inside of you. Maybe you have figured out or told yourself, well, I think I looked inside, I think I know who I am, and it's not really good. So let's not have anyone really see that. Keep everyone on arm's length. When people get together, ask the questions, but don't talk about yourself. Laugh about your jokes, but don't make your own jokes. So that form of hiding is also something that, is a very early pattern of security and self-protection. But the other side is that control. And it's really interesting how many times pleasers actually are, you could almost say, passively, aggressively controlling others by just being the ones who create the dependency. This can be with your kids, that you're just always hovering and making sure they're okay, and not really ever creating boundaries, never want to have conflict. And what you're doing is making them dependent on you and making them basically not ever feel like they can face maybe challenges and difficulties, because you take them all away. And by that, you control the relationship and you make sure that you will never be left alone or abandoned. Or maybe you are controlling with your pleasing your partner, and just, again, make yourself indispensable, make this person so comfortable and yourself so invisible behind the servant role that, again, you feel like, wow, he or she need me. They cannot be without me. So realize that the pleasing isn't just only about, being submissive. Sometimes it can also go into that more controlling part, and unfortunately there you're doing more harm to others than you're actually helping them, because you never let them really grow. I have clients that tell me about the relationship with a parent who, let's say, was always dealing with alcohol or was always dealing with depression, and they felt the need to be the pleasers, to always take care of that person, because they needed the parent to not totally fall apart or maybe abandon them. But that pattern went into the adulthood. And in the adulthood, then they continued to enable the bad behavior, or continue to not believe that the parent can really get out of the depression or look for help, and maybe not need to have a 24-hour hotline with their kid. So that is also something that, looking back, they realize, wow, I actually made this life of my parents just somehow okay, so that they could stay in their dysfunction and never really had so much discomfort or pain that they needed to change or needed to look for help. And that's not conscious. These are all subconscious patterns. It's just important that we are aware of what we are doing, that we are waking up to our responsibility to ourselves and to others, and realize that pleasing actually can do more harm than good for both sides. So how do we get out of it? Well, there are simple steps. And by the way, we're going to do in the last 15 minutes a little, guided process, a process about one of the 4 steps to get out of pleasing modes. But the first step is self-awareness. And just like I talked about, being aware of this is the problem, this is, these are the fallouts of the pleasing. This is where I cause problems and pain for myself and maybe for others. We also need to have the self-awareness and really be aware that this is something that has made us really disconnect from ourselves. We don't really know who we are. We don't really have a clue what we really want. I mean, when you look at your pleasing patterns and you would say, well, I have all the time, money, energy, and maybe even the freedom to do whatever I want, what would I do? Often people just don't know, and they also feel very uncomfortable even having to ask these questions themselves. So just realizing that this is a journey back to discovering yourself that gets you out of the pleasing mode. And for that, you may want to go back and realize also where this all started, forgive or at least understand what other people did when they made you feel you had to please because maybe you felt unsafe or insecure or rejected, that these are things that say more about them than it says about you. And that you can feel somewhat good about yourself, that you chose to rather give goodness and support in the world than maybe respond with anger or with bullying, rejection, like those that potentially have hurt you. And also think about that, what it means for you as you are going more into the self-awareness, what it means for you to have greater independence again. If we are not aware of why we want to change, we don't change. So think about, if I can actually get this pleasing pattern out of my system, what's in it for me? How could I really then maybe have more peace or more stability or just a better relationship with myself? So these are all pieces of self-awareness that I think are really, really important when it comes to becoming more independent of pleasing and becoming more self-reliant when it comes to how you feel about yourself. And besides the self-exploration and being really just also aware of the pattern of raising your hand right away when someone needs you, or volunteering right away to host the next Thanksgiving at your home, being aware of, I need to stop those knee-jerk reflexes. There's also this awareness of your goodness, which is about filling your self-worth account. Because what you want is a sense of worthiness, a sense of that what you do is fundamentally either okay or something of value. Well, if you always, want others to give this to you, you easily lose sight on what really is inside of you. And so most pleasers I'm working with, I ask to have a self-worth account and really think about every day how to fill it. Every day really spend a moment and look at their goodness, independent of what they do for others. And that means like really looking at what you are as a person and not what you do as a human doing. So this can be just the goodness of yourself to actually notice the beautiful sunshine rather than already thinking about whatever, going to work or any problems, and just not even realizing, well, maybe this is actually something that nature right now can feed me because it's so beautiful. It can be the goodness of having empathy for those that suffer, even if you cannot really help them, but you actually see them and you do have an open heart for them. It can be that you see your self-worth in really treating yourself well, that you think about, wow, isn't it nice that I do eat healthy, or that I chose to go to the gym, or on my little home bike, or whatever those things are. So really look at yourself as a source of self-worth, so that you become more and more full with that, which again allows you then to express your kindness because this is who you are, and not because it's a currency, like going to the market and you want something in return. How to get out of pleasing mode, overgiving, overextending yourself? Well, we already talked about two ways. One is to gain more self-awareness. And by more self-awareness, you also gain greater self-reliance. And just know that you are the one who can ultimately live your own life, and you don't depend so much on other people to give you permission to maybe speak up or feel good about yourself. And the second one was to fill your self-worth account. Just notice who you are, give yourself what you hope to get from others. And the third one is to give people a chance. As someone who knows a bit about pleasing, one of the things we don't do is to open up to receive. So when I got out of my pleasing mode, I deliberately did the opposite of what I used to do. I was the one that actually started to talk about myself rather than only asking questions or listening. I was the one who asked people for help rather than feeling like, oh, no, I'm going to help them. But, if I need something, I'll just do it myself. I think I can do it better myself. I was the one who started to, really take in the appreciation I got, not just deflecting it and saying, oh yeah, they are just saying it. They're just gonna, they're just nice, or they are just appreciating me because I was bending over backwards. No, I was open to let people see me and to let people simply love and appreciate me for who I am and not for what I do. And that takes a little courage, right? It's a vulnerable thing to all of a sudden open up and let yourself be seen. And it's a vulnerable thing also to just do the opposite and put yourself out, become the receiver and let other people give, because you wonder, will they do it? Will they really give me what I want? Will they really help me? Will they really listen to me? Will they really be kind to me? And guess what? Not everyone will. But a lot of people will give you that what you deserve, which is love and attention. It may not be the people right now that you want something in return back, but it may be a new, group of people that may surprise you, people that may have been waiting for you to show up in your most authentic and real way. So give it a try. It's absolutely worth it. Now, the most natural and I think, most obvious way to get out of pleasing mode is to have boundaries. And there are 4 boundaries. And because I feel like I can talk a lot, and, sometimes it may go in on one ear and out on the other ear. So I want to make you actually experience those boundaries more through a visualization. And I'm just going to briefly say what those 4 boundaries are, and then we're going to delve into this inner work where it's not only like an intellectual understanding, it's actually more a subconscious, visceral, taking on of something that may actually really serve you to easily switch out of this pleasing mode. And the 4 boundaries are the external boundary of saying no, and just really saying to people, not now or never. Then is the internal boundary, which is stopping to think about those that you in that moment may have disappointed, or stop thinking about the people that in the past were so important for your self-worth. Just that pattern, of having this mind racing, stopping that. The third one is the boundary of just releasing those old imprints and decluttering yourself from the limiting beliefs that say only if I do this I can receive love and attention, or I'm fundamentally not good enough, so I have to always prove my worth through giving to others. These are inner imprints and programs that we can release. This is something I do with clients all the time in one-on-one sessions. And the fourth boundary is the boundary of a force field of compassion, where we are looking at people no longer with, I see your pain, so that's my role and my responsibility to fix it, but more like, I see your pain and I believe that you have the resources inside of you and the ability to heal yourself or to grow from it, and really being able to discern, when is it my turn to step in and when is it my turn just to know that there is hope, there is light, there is for them the possibility, and I don't want to stifle their growth and healing by always stepping over my role in their lives. And just know that in order to create wholeness and happiness, sometimes we have to go through certain troubles and challenges. Otherwise, we cannot really find what's inside of us. Hi, Dr. Friedemann here. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. If you're interested in learning more about fear and anxiety, here you'll find guided meditations, webinars, and interviews with some of the most renowned experts in the field of empowerment. Delve into the over 230 videos and more to come every week.